bring it back to the resiliency and the why. I want to see if you could do it. I got an idea here, but I'm throwing it to you.
Yeah, well, it's the if I truly understand my why, what is it I'm trying to do? What's my why for each day? Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis, episode number 400. And for those of you who are following us at home, that's 400. That's
Yes,
one more than 399. And you know what? It's one less than 401. And that's
sure
why we're celebrating tonight.
Yes, sir.
A little bit of family whiskey.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, you messed up yeah, don't mess up the camera. That's why I didn't touch mine. 15 minutes to get it back in the right spot.
Yes, sir. But yeah, cheers to 400. Congrats, Dad. 400. Been a long journey. Been a lot of fun. A lot of great conversations.
Oh, man. You know, I mean, even just this morning talking with Val, war stories. Yeah. I can't wait. You know, I challenged her with something, and it sounded like she kind of thought about it, but I'm not sure she's going to do it. And I think it's so important with all these stories that she's capturing. And what a cool thing if she could say, here's the lesson.
Yep.
And you know, truthfully, when I sat down, before I sat down to write my book, wherever it is in the screen, I don't see it. When I sat down to write Enable Your Team's Success, I went back and captured stories in my mind and made a table. And this is a PSA for you out there who want to write a self-help book. That was exactly what I did. I wrote down stories that, and I've used those stories also for speeches. But I wrote down those stories of whatever they may have been, whether it was something in Alaska as a Green Beret, whatever. And then I put the lesson in there, and that's a prized document. I probably ought to put it somewhere where, when I'm gone,
gotta put it somewhere safe,
or I don't remember my password anymore,
yeah.
Which may happen before I'm gone. I don't know. But, you know, it's that thing that you have to do to capture, to share. And, you know, without diving too much more into the stories with Val, that's how we learn as humans. That, and oh, by the way, thank you very much, Pump app and Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Apparently, if you read and study something and then you go to the gym and work out, you remember it better. How's that?
See, I thought you had to work out while you're studying it.
No.
Starve the brain to oxygen, something like that.
No. And
that explains my 2.8 in high school.
Yes, it
wasn't working quite.
And I never ran after studying. I ran after drinking.
Well, don't go for a run tonight, all right? But no, I was just going to say on the story piece, I think it's such a big aspect as a leader to, you don't have to necessarily write it all out, but like understand those different stories and have them kind of ready to go. That you have these stories that you tell for certain things, you know, like, and we've told the story on the podcast probably about 4 or 5 times. I told a story at practice tonight with U of A boys about the prairie dog. Right. And being decisive. Right. And as funny as that is bookmarked. And whenever I am in a conversation where somebody is struggling with indecision, prairie dog story pops up. And I think it's really important to be able to bookmark those stories so you can find them faster. Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you got your go-tos, right? I'm sure over the years that prairie dog will become a whole herd of them. And, you know, I had to like steer the truck and spin it around. And,
so you hit them all?
Yeah. We lost traction in the rear and spun out. And which, you know, in storytelling and lessons, and to get to 400 episodes. And we talked about this the other day, and now I can't remember. I think we're coming up on 6 years. Does that sound right?
Sounds because it would have been about 6 years because we started the podcast just after I left Cobra Valley. So coming up on 6 years.
We are coming up on 6 years, and you know what? You don't do this on a whim.
No.
You don't just show up and continue to do something for 6 years, weekly at least, if not generally speaking, or for the last 3 years, I think we've been doing 2 a week.
Yep.
And the only way you could do that is through that resiliency, through the ups and the downs and the toddler crud that I'm fighting off right now, and the various things that come into play, like well, you know what? We're not making any money on the podcast, so why are we doing it? What's it do? I get those people. Actually, the people that ask me that kind of stuff, I stiff arm them away, and it's like I said on the show this morning with Val, I'm like, hey, no, you ain't coming on the show. So.
Yeah. It takes a lot of resiliency. I mean, shoot, my back surgery, your back surgery, your other back surgery, birth of my daughter,
my other back surgery.
Your other back surgery, hunting trips, all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of distractions, plenty of things to push through. But I think with resilience, there's one piece I want to touch on, because as you're talking about that, the other piece is the commitment to growth that comes with resiliency. And to me, that is actually, I wouldn't say it comes with resiliency. To me, I would say that's the fuel of the resiliency, is that commitment to the growth. Because, 400 episodes, we've had some not great episodes, some episodes where I feel like my brain ain't working and I'm rambling and I forget my questions and all that kind of stuff. And that's the type of thing.
I've watched you walk around that trail a couple of times.
Yeah, and it happens. But, it's one thing, you can take that and you can go like, oh gosh, that sucked and I'm not good at this or anything there. Or you can say, you know what, it's a process. I'm going to commit to keep getting better. Sometimes you have a bad day at the office. It happens. And you just got to make sure you are committing to that growth. And I think when you commit to that growth, it adds fuel to that resiliency, because when you are, I've talked about the Freebird effect a bunch, right? That Freebird effect of it's like, I want to play Freebird. All I can play is hot cross buns. It's really hard to keep going towards Freebird. But when you commit to just learning a little bit and just trying to get a little better, when you focus on that growth, that fuels your resiliency to get to that Freebird and avoid that Freebird effect there.
Yep. Well, all I can think of when you say that is cousin Bobby, my nephew. That boy can play Freebird. Folks, if you Bobby Goff in St. Joe, Texas, is the guy who wrote and plays our intro song.
Yes, sir.
He is a talented young man, and if you ever get a chance to sit next to him or sit down in the audience when he's up on stage and hear him play, he's gifted. He is gifted, and you know what? He didn't pick the guitar up and say, I want to play Freebird. He worked to it. He worked to it, and he is resilient in that effort that he puts forth day in and day out on picking that guitar. And now that I think about it, he plays a lot of blues. I don't know if that counts as picking. We'll have to ask.
You pick the blues, I guess. But yeah. I think the point there being that you got to understand what you're working for, and I think that's the key to resilience. And that that gets into the leadership component of it there, of painting that vision and helping the team to understand why they need to be resilient. Not just, hey, toughen up. Come on, that's how it is. But it's like, why am I putting in that effort? Why do I keep showing up on a podcast and keep going, even though I forget my questions and those kind of things? That's reasons to quit right there. But what is the thing that keeps me moving on it? Well, because I think that the conversations I have are worth it, right? And that I know we can keep getting better, keep having more conversations. I think that's worth it. And I think that's the key as a leader, is painting that vision, that why that we always talk about. And that why is what helps you to fuel that resiliency.
Right. The why is the fuel, and the fuel is required in order to be resilient. Resilience is this fictitious thing. It really is. Truthfully, when I was in SF, taking long walks in the woods in the middle of the night and swamps and doing all those things that I did, I didn't know what resilient was. Nobody said resilient. They just said, get the shit done. They said,
you didn't have any Marcus Aurelius quotes or anything?
Nope.
What?
It was
What?
just
How'd you make it?
It was perform. It was perform. And that's, I had, you know, and I want to say, it doesn't matter who said it. My why was strong enough. My why to be awarded the Green Beret for my efforts was strong enough that I pushed through the BS. I pushed through the swamp. I pushed through the Greenbrier, and maybe got a few scratches on the face and the hands and legs and tore my pants and all kinds of stuff like that. But you know what? I had that resilience. I didn't know what it was, and nobody talks about it because it's fictitious. And really, I think you've hit the nail on the head. We can talk about resilience, and I'm going to, you know, I did a talk. I did a lunch and learn for a company about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, on resilience. It was right in the middle of the coronavirus thing, and they wanted me to talk on resilience, and I did, and you know, knocked it out of the park, of course.
Of course, you did.
However, the more I think about it, the more I think resilience is BS, because there is no resilience without the why. Mm-hmm. You can't just be resilient. I'm going to be resilient today because why? Mm-hmm. Why are you resilient today? That's the secret to it. That's the secret sauce, folks. The why right here. The why right here of the 10X Your Team, previously known as the Cam and Otis Show. You want to know what that is? Loving the story that people share with us. Loving learning from others. And there's an underlying why as a dad. It's, I got my boy captured for an hour, you know, a couple of times a week. It's on the calendar and it's committed.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a lot of fun.
Those are some pretty powerful whys. You know, there is more to it than this. The more I think about resilience, the more I think it's bullshit. Yes. 12 minutes in. Good.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Yeah.
Because I think it's this new age crap. This new age crap. You know what? Do you think them dudes on the Santa Fe Trail, do you think Lewis and Clark were saying, hey, guys, we got to be resilient? Mm-hmm. Bullshit.
No, they weren't.
Bullshit. And they had a why.
Yeah, and I think also it goes back to, you know, you talk about it being new age BS, and I think there's some truth to it, because it's a thing that you have to start when you don't have the why. You have to talk about resiliency and those kind of things when you don't have a why to push through. It's like that whole thing of, you know, why don't you see people back in the day being anxious? Well, because there was literally a tiger. I don't have to imagine a tiger in the dark. There's literally a tiger out there, right? So you have a very strong why to keep your efforts going. And I think the thing I want to talk about a little bit, as you were talking about the why, the resiliency, and you know, that aspect there, is the commitment to getting back to it and how quickly you reset. I, of course, am very rugby on the brain today, even more than usual, because I'm coming out of a practice, right?
Yeah, we didn't even talk about what happened to trainer today, so look out, folks.
Yeah, no, we're getting into it. But no, one of the things that, you know, I was talking with some of the boys about tonight is this thing that happens where you start losing. You get scored on, something happens, you miss a tackle, and you start to feel down on yourself. And you start to focus on the mistake, and instead of focusing on the why. And the why for a lot of rugby players is just the guy next to you. And really, it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Why am I pushing the pace? Because it makes it harder on the opposition, and that makes it easier on the guy next to me. And I want to go test them. I want to keep pushing. And when you have that why, it gives you a reason to bounce back quickly. And I think that's the real key when you talk about resiliency, is how quickly can you bounce back? You know, we actually, I don't know, you might have done a Whiskey Words on this, Dad. I'm honestly not sure. We had this conversation about which one is better, whether you are disciplined or determined, I think was the way I put it, right? And I think there's an interesting thing there, because if you lack discipline, then your output is less. But if you're determined enough, you're committed enough, eventually you will reach that same point. But I think the key there is when you have a strong why, you bounce back really freaking quick. You bounce back faster. And I think that's the understanding that a lot of people lack. You know, there's space to take your loss. You know, I've talked about it before with U of A Rugby. We have the 24-hour rule. Win or loss, you have 24 hours to be emotional about it. After that, we're done. And I think setting something up like that is very perfect. What you don't want to do is allow that to keep spreading out and you go, oh, well, you know, last week of work sucked, so I'm taking it a little easy this week, and those kind of things.
Well, it's the spiraling. It's the spiraling I talk about when we talk about energy levels and that level 1 victim. It's the woe is me. And if you're not careful, you spiral into depression.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, if you aren't aware of that spiral, then you keep falling through it. And the way you break out of that spiral, speaking as somebody who struggles with depression and fights with my depression, is you have to push through things and you have to make the commitment to action. If you, I'll take the easy rugby example. And Dad, I know you know the answer to this one, so I'm fastball right down the middle. But here you go. But how do you increase your work rate? 3 steps, right?
Yeah.
First 3 steps. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. If you commit to that first 3 steps every time, it makes the rest of the job easier. If you get up and you're like, okay, I got to figure out what I need to do. And should I be doing this? Should I be an A, B, or C? Or should I be an A minus, B minus? Where do I need to be? You can what yourself to death. You can why yourself to death. And instead, if you just commit to taking some action, those 3 steps, it gets you the momentum, helps you to be more resilient. Same way I've talked about, I do this personally whenever I hit a roadblock on something, I'll go find something around the house to do. Makes me feel a little bit better, gets me a little bit of momentum, and then I'm right back.
Is that why all them projects have been gotten done lately? Is that what's happening?
To tell you the truth, man, oh my gosh. when I was building the shed and going through all of those, oh my gosh, I hit a roadblock. And what did you have to be that bad at a roadblock? You could have sent me a mean email. I'd go work on the shed.
But you know, that's an interesting thing, and I want to circle back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But there is, I go back to this word resiliency, and yeah, but you can't have it's much like discipline versus determination, right? You can't have one without the other. Well, you can't have resiliency. You can't be resilient unless you know why you're being resilient. I mean, somebody punches me in the face, if I trip and fall, or if I miss the chair like I did last night outside the fire pit. Oops. Yep. Yes, nobody moved it. I just forgot where it was. You know what? What did I do? I got up. Is that resilient? No. No, that's the why of, you know what? Get up off your ass and sit down. Enjoy that cigar. You know, thankfully the cigar, I didn't fall and do something weird. It was, you know, cigar was okay. Fire was okay. Whiskey was okay.
There you go.
But it's not, the more I think about it, the more I have trouble with that word. And I'm calling everybody out that plays on that word, because you can't have resiliency. You can't be resilient unless you know what your why is.
And it's not a thing that you can focus on. It's the other thing I'm getting back to. Like if I go out to practice, let's say on Thursday now, we're recording this on a Tuesday now. I go back out there to training on Thursday, and I say, hey, we are not resilient enough. There's nothing actionable there.
All them boys are going to look at you and go, okay, coach.
Yes, sir. We need to be resilient. We need to communicate and be resilient. Yeah, exactly, boys. But no, you have to understand what is the thing that makes up that resilience. You give them an action, and you give them a why behind the action, and then you make sure that they understand that if you commit to those actions, if you commit to that action when things are going wrong, you will get your momentum back, and you will be more resilient.
Well, and I just go back to the, what is resilience? If you want to define it, if I've got a why, then resilience is sticking to my why. using my why to motivate me, drive me, pull me forward. And I think that's the difference. You can't have resilience without why, and you can't have determination without discipline. Because I can be determined to run into that damn wall right there all day long. But why? Why am I running into that wall? What am I determined? What is my discipline to do that every day for 10 times, or like I do in my right now in my back recovery, I go up and down the stairs 20, 25 times, right? I mean, I do those things through discipline to create resilience. So here's an interesting thought. Maybe what resilience is the ability to take my body to handle it. My why has to be strong enough to pull my body through it, which also means my body has to physically. Now, this is something different. What is the physical resilience? Now, physical resilience, I'll agree with you. There is something different there, because physical resilience requires effort prior to action.
Yeah.
That's what are you doing in the gym? Are you working out? Are you running? Are you rowing? Are you lifting? That's how your physical resilience can go. But I'm back to if you go back to the mental resilience, it's nothing more than your why, because the why, that big W, is the thing that's reaching down, grabbing you by the collar and yanking your ass up out of the mud and saying, let's go, let's move out. That's not resilience. That's the why.
Yeah.
Now, physical resilience, that's something that I love and I specialize in. Let's work out. Let's do this. Let's prepare. Let's get ready for, I gotta carry, 75% of Mr. Flicker's elk out because, he's always whining and complaining. Well, I've got to have some resilience to carry out Mr. Flicker's elk. Mm-hmm. So,
and yeah, I think the physical resilience, though, it does go back to the why, because you got to have that why of why you're preparing, right? You have to be able to put in that effort to get ready for it. But I think the thing that I keep coming back to, and I use that 3 steps example in the game of rugby, but it's what are the actions you can take to just harvest some momentum back when things go wrong. The way you break out of that spiral is you find your quick win, you find your thing you're comfortable with. To take a much different example than what we've been talking about, you close your eyes and have a few breaths and you recenter yourself, right? That is also a way to help to build your resilience. It gives you an action, and the way that you are more effective with those actions is you practice them, just like you're saying. I can talk all day about how each break in a game of rugby is an opportunity to reset, an opportunity to get your momentum back, and those kind of things. But if you don't have the skills to do the thing after the reset, well, then it's not going to actually give you any momentum. You're just going to make things worse. Like if you rush your way up to a kickoff and then nobody launches, nobody tackles on the kickoff, well, then there's no point rushing the kickoff, right? You have to have those proper mechanics in order to build on top of it. And I think the same thing goes inside of the business. You need to have things that you can build your momentum back up with. Maybe they're outside of the business, like my examples of going and doing the dishes or working on the shed or whatever it is. But you have those ways that you can start to get that momentum back. And I think that's really the big key. And I can even think, there's plenty of examples inside of my work, at least, to use the personal examples of things that I can do inside of it as well, rather than just outside. I can what's an easiest one? Send it an email. Go send your emails. You got 5 emails you need to send. You just had a really shitty coaching call and you weren't doing a good job and you didn't give good advice. They were asking questions you didn't know the answer to. Guess what? Go send some emails, get some momentum back, start to build up. And that's where that resilience comes from, is that birth of the momentum. But it all goes back to the why, right?
Yeah, it does. And, I think let's dissect that some more, because there's so much to that in the what's the easy win, because we all do that.
What's your easy win?
I don't don't know whether it's genetic or not, but well, I'll go down and I'll do some pocket litter stuff, or a one for me that has been for probably a year or so is a quick walk. And because I set a daily expectation of doing 3 a day, and doing that's a tick mark win. But what's interesting, and I think this is where I want to dissect and dive into with you, is here's another great one. The other day I was messing around and doing stuff in here, and I was like, I went out to the garage, started messing around. I'm putting oil in the engine that I'm going to take to the ranch to put on the well pump. Why? Why did I spend 20 minutes in the garage pouring oil into the engine? Like I'm going to forget. I better do this now. No. It was an excuse to keep me from doing the hard thing. The hard thing of what's next for the general service accounting steps? What's next? What's the next Steel Men Tribe email? What's all these sort of things that are hard to do that are slightly out of my control, if you will. Like your shed. Your shed's a great example. I mean, it's the same thing as me either going out and putting oil in an engine that now, thank you, Mr. or Dr. Stanton, ain't going to get it off the workbench until April. Grubble on that. But it's no different than going downstairs to the man cave and grabbing a pocket litter and like, well, let me refold this and see if I can get it a little bit tighter, a little bit smaller, right? It's these things that are easy, that we convince ourselves that are easy, and we still need to do them. Because sending that invoice to so and so, making that phone call, calling Dr. Robin, because I don't want to call Dr. Robin. I mean, I love her, and I'm going to be embarrassed because I hadn't done the stuff that she said I should do. So I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to distract myself.
Yeah, it's just
right. It's that kind of stuff.
It's all this. I mean, it's just another form of escapism. I think that's one thing I've talked through this with some of my clients before. It's like understanding that escapism is not just the disappearing into booze or into video games or like these or TV and Netflix. It's not just this these escapism ways that we talk about it, but there's also plenty of opportunities to fall into that same pattern with these good things that we're talking about. Just because you need a reset or you're struggling with something, it doesn't mean you necessarily need to go do that easy win. Sometimes you just need to push forward. Another thing I talk about with my clients, I love this one, I've talked about on the show before, is eat the frog. Sometimes the best thing you can do is go do the worst thing right away. And just commit yourself to doing that terrible thing that you hate so much. And I hate this call and I hate these emails and all this stuff. And it makes me so anxious. All this just commit to it, get it out of the way. It makes the rest of your day so much easier. And I think, that's an aspect, we're getting more into the time management type of things in my opinion, at least. But it goes back to how can you be more resilient? Well, you have to be conscious of what you're doing. You have to be self-aware of your actions. You have to understand that escapism, that distraction, that building a shed is just as much of a distraction as something negative, like going and playing video games or something like that, right? You have to understand it's still a distraction.
We level it up, which is the ironic thing. We level it up. And in business, in a small business especially, this is really interesting. We level that up with, if I called this guy or did this action, I'm going to make more money. But yet, I want to go and drive 20 nails in the shed. I want to go put oil
hell of a lot more than
20,
I'll tell you.
Not going to be used. Well, I was framing how much time you were spending. I want to I want to put oil in an engine that's not going to be used for 2 freaking months. Yep. Right. I mean, it's this sort of thing that we lie to ourselves about how it's just as important as, calling Bob and saying, "Hey, Bob, we've been talking, da, 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 you ready to execute?" It's the irony is we'll treat putting oil in the engine as the same importance as calling Bob to close a deal. And that's not the way you're successful in business. And
bring it back to the resiliency and the why. I want to see if you could do it. I got an idea here, but I'm throwing it to you.
If I truly understand my why, what is it I'm trying to do? What's my why for each day? What do I want to accomplish? Why do I want to accomplish it? Well, I want to grow my business. I want to succeed. I want to create more opportunities. I want to have impact on more people. Well, then why the hell am I putting oil in an engine that's going to sit on the workbench for 2 months? Really? I mean, if I'm doing that, then I'm lying to myself about what the why is. Yep. Because I've flipped it into that getting water out of the pump house up the valley from the camp at the ranch is super important because, wow, if we get water, we can do blah, 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 blah. Really? Really, dude? Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, you can do those things, but is that really your why? Is that really it? And I think that's, when you get down to it, that's the sort of stuff that becomes the distractions. I mean, this week's newsletter, I talked with my new friend Devin at Holy Smokes about following a path, and he was talking about demons. And if you go and you look at the what is this week? The week of the 3rd of February, you look that up on LinkedIn or what's it called? Slack. No, not Slack. Shoot. There's an app, and now I can't think of what the heck it's called. But anyway, Substack. Substack. There we go. Yeah. You go and look at Substack, and you look up the newsletter, Monday Moments, and you'll see this picture. Thank you very much, AI. It's scary because there's this dude walking down this path that has a light at it. And then there's these scary hand-looking things all along the side. And those are the shed. Those are the put the oil in the engine. Those are the things, those are the demons. And I talk about this in that newsletter. Those are the demons that, for whatever reason, and I think men try to do this more, that we're like, all right, stop, bam, 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 and I'm going to fight it. I'm going to fight it till I win. Well, guess what? You just lost because the demon stopped you from moving down the trail that you're supposed to move to. Your why, to accomplishing your why.
Only way to win is not play the game. There's a lot to be said for that. And I think when it comes to resilience, you have to recognize what the path is that you're really most committed to, recognize what your top priority is. And all of those things, they could be good. It doesn't mean they're not distractions. And I think that's such a key piece of it there, is that there could be good distractions. I could be productive and still be distracted from what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm going to bring it back to something that I know the book you and I both love, which is The War of Art, and talking about resistance, right? That resistance is what is where you need your resilience, if you will, right? That when you feel the resistance the most, that's where that why comes in, to be resilient and push through that resistance. But if anyone out there, all of our listeners who have read the War of Art, they'll know that the resistance is worse when you are working towards something that you really care about, something that's really important to you, something that is really tied to your purpose. And so it's really important that you recognize what that resistance is. And instead of just distracting yourself with other projects and those kind of things, you commit to getting back to it. Because that's the thing. You talked about the demon example there. I don't know if this quite works with the analogy, but hey, it wouldn't be 10X Your Team / Cam and Otis show if we weren't mixing in metaphors and analogies a little bit. But instead of going, I'm going to fight you and I'm going to get this down and I'm going to completely beat this thing, it's the, ooh, I'm feeling a lot of resistance here. Let me just turn, pop. All right, we'll come back. It's just getting right back to it and seeing how quickly you can reset. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the story that Devin told me in the vision. Is the demon he saw, well, a friend of his was telling him this, saw him, the demons would reach out and try to grab his arm, and instead of turning and fighting him, he'd jerk it away and continue forward. Now here's the crux of this, though. That doesn't mean that one of them sons of bitches ain't got out on your trail and you got to fight him.
Yep.
Right? Because the obstacle is the way. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that's a different thing. I'm not talking about these over here. I'm talking about the one that's right there.
That's the resistance.
And that's the resistance. That's I got to get through this. How do I get through this? What do I need to do to continue to move forward? Because the path has no end state. That's the, I think it was Seth Godin.
That's Seth
talks
Hollyman?
About the infinite. Not Seth Hollyman. Although, no, this wouldn't have been Seth Hollyman. Seth Godin talks about the infinite game. I think it was Seth. Whoever it was, doesn't matter. The infinite game, because it's much like I talk about with time. Time is infinite. However, it's limited, right? So you don't know when your path is going to end. That's the infinite action of it. And what we have to do is continue to move forward down that path, because you know what? When it ends, guess what? That's it. Go push up daisies. That's what it's, that's the end of the path. And when you have a why strong enough to drive you through every demon obstacle that is in the path, and also keep you focused so that you aren't going out and spending, 30 minutes pouring oil into a 3.5 horsepower engine, you don't have to do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
What's important?
I think understanding your priorities is such a key piece to resilience, because it's not just keep fighting. Like we've talked about, there's sprints in life. There's also times where you need to pause, and you need to recognize that as well. And there's times where you're pausing not because you finished something, but because you're struggling with something and you need a moment. But you have to have that honesty of, am I just escaping? Am I just trying to, avoid the problem that I'm looking at, or am I actually resetting myself? I'll use a personal example and a rugby example. So bring it back to rugby. But
isn't that one of the things?
For me, it is. But I think back to something that I would do when I played 8-man more so. This is getting into the weeds a bit, but 8-man specifically, but even otherwise. So before every scrum, I would take my knee in my stance there. I would close my eyes. And then I'll get back to it. You could just as easily keep your eyes shut. You could just as easily go, I don't want to play anymore, coach. I'm staying right here. But instead, it's this conscious thing of, hey, I need a moment. Take my moment. And now I'm back. And it's just like, I'm going to use the analogy of, it's like, and I was going to say jumping into a pool, but I'm going to go even crazier. It's like jumping off a roof into a pool, right? Something crazy like that, where if you psych yourself out.
I might have done that too.
My back was too bad in college. I never did that. But no, this idea of, it's like, if you psych yourself out, then you are going to get hurt. If I'm trying to jump off a roof into a pool, I got a bunch of concrete right there. If I go 1, 2, 3, I don't know. Guess what happens? I fall off the roof and I hurt myself. But if you commit to it, you say, hey, I am terrified. I'm scared shitless right now. That happens to me sometimes, right? Whether it's business, rugby, whatever it is, I feel that also. And you have that moment where you go, well, I got to go. And at that point, you have to commit to it. And I think that's a big key when it comes to the resilience, is understanding what your why you're doing that kind of thing. And then if it scares the shit out of you, you got to push yourself through it and just commit to it. And, the other coaching arm of that is because every time that you fake yourself out on that, it creates more and more self-doubt, and it gets worse and worse and worse. But that's a whole nother conversation there. But as far as the resiliency goes, it is understanding that why, committing to getting back into the game, whether that game is rugby, or that game is business, or that game is, cleaning the house, whatever it is, committing to getting back into the game and holding yourself to that. I think that's where resiliency really comes from, is that why, that commitment to that specific action that we talked about that gets your momentum back going. And I think if you could do those three things, you're going to be, resilient as hell, even though we don't like the word resilient anymore, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's okay. But what I think is, without why, you can't have resilience. And as I wrap this up and think about that, I want to pull back up the slides, and I think I have a video of me. It was a 45-minute talk on resilience, and what I said, because the more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, there is such a thing as resilience, but resilience does not exist without why.
Yep.
And going back to discipline and determination, those have to exist together. So I'll just say that I learned that resilience is this. It got somebody a lot of money for a book, or a tick mark or something in their career, but really there's no such thing as resilience unless you have a powerful why, and that's the bottom line for anything. So, Camden, how about you? What'd you
for me, I got a real specific one, which is when I go into training on Thursday and I start talking to my boys in the twos about being more resilient, I'm going to give them specific actions. There's a why. I think they understand the why. I think I've done a good job with that. But we were talking about the importance of having that clear action of, I will go do these things, and that is what's going to get me back on track. And I think that's a really, really key point I want to hammer home on Thursday.
Awesome.
Hey, and I learned that we have had an amazing 6 years, somewhere thereabouts, recorded 400 awesome episodes. Or actually, we were talking about resilience because I screwed up some. So we'll say 390, maybe 390 good episodes, 10 shit ones. You gotta watch them all to find them, though.
That's right, and we've had some amazing guests, some really great friends on our show, and some people that have become friends by being on our show. And the list of, we got to have him back, we got to have her back, is always longer than we can manage.
Longer than the 400 episodes, yeah.
yeah. But that is the beauty of what we do, and the gift that I really think we're given. And being able to do this each week, and sharing people's stories and their life lessons, so that others can learn from them. And
I was gonna say real quick, I'm out of whiskey here, but I was gonna say cheers to 400 more, Dad. It's been a lot of fun.
You didn't have a bottle?
No, I didn't bring the bottle with me. Actually, that's an old bottle. Old bottle you bought for me. I'm out.
Miss Jess is in the other room with Clem with the bottle.
Well, I can't. Yeah, I can't ring a bell and get whiskey delivered. Something about a baby or taking care of the house. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let me give you some life lessons about marriage, there, boy. No. Don't do that.
All right. We'll scratch off one project that was on my list of putting a string line with a bell so I could ring for whiskey.
No. Not a good idea. Just tell me. Miss Suzanne, the look on her face, I don't know if I could survive it. But yeah, so
I was going to say, you can't survive Miss Suzanne's. I don't know if you see Miss Jessica's.
Oh man, she's got that Latina, man. We got to look out. That's why I'm always sweet.
Yes, sir.
I love her.
Me too.
Yep. So, folks, here's the bottom line: if you wanna be successful, you got to lead. And if you don't know how to lead, pick up a book. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, because if you're watching this, hit the subscribe button. Sign up for the GBLP, the Green Beret Leadership Program. If you're a CEO founder and you're like, God, why has my business stopped growing? It's probably because you're doing the day-to-day operations instead of doing what you should be doing, which is grow and sell the business as a CEO founder. Folks, you got to take that effort. Leading is the key to success in life. You lead yourself, you lead your team, you lead your business. And if you want to do that, if you want to work with us, go to 10xyourteam.net, because we got some great programs there for you. The Start, which is our YouTube channel, tons of information out there, free. The Service, the system, which is our leadership program, the Green Beret Leadership Program. And finally, the Service, our fractional COOs, which enable that CEO founder to grow his business, whether you want to grow it as a legacy business or grow it to exit.
I got a foot stopper there, and I know I'm messing up your call to action a little bit, but I'd use the word foot stopper, so you have to let me use it. But no, if you are in your business and you are distracted with the day-to-day, you can't get outside of your business as the CEO. That is you giving into the escapism. It's you giving into that problem-solving fever. Go look up episode 281-ish whenever I talked about that. But really, it's that commitment of like, look, I'm solving a problem, so things are going well. Doesn't mean you're solving the right problem. You got to get your priorities straight. You got to get your why straight.
Awesome. Camden, thank you very much for 400 episodes, and I'm looking forward to many, many more. I don't know what the cap will be, but I can tell you it's going to be a lot. So here's to you, buddy.
Yes, sir. Cheers. All right. Well, thank y'all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Camden and Otis, a special episode 400 for all of us here. And, remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass on to other lifelong learners in your tribe so they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, the full archive of shows is available at www.10xyourteam.net. That's that DIY solution we always talk about. Other DIY stuff in there too. You got to go check it out to find out. Thank y'all again, and we'll see y'all next time for episode 401.